made two $25 million claims against the Murdaugh's estates, claiming wrongful death of Mallory. The patriarch of the family, disgraced lawyer Alex Murdaugh, has since been indicted on dozens of claims and charges of money laundering and fraud.
The Murdaugh family had the reputation of being able to get away with anything. There were 3 suspicious deaths in this town that had links to the Murdaughs. First was 19-year-old Stephen Smith, found dead in the middle of a rural road. Now, law officials listed it as a hit and run. His family says he was murdered. A few years later, the Murdaughs' housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, allegedly fell on the brick steps at their estate and died a few weeks later in the hospital, but the autopsy listed her death as natural.
Another case that reopened is the death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. He died in 2015. The South Carolina Highway Patrol says it was a hit and run. However, that case has been reopened now due to what investigators say are rumors that the death was not an accident and that the Murdaugh name was brought up several times in interviews with Smith's family and friends.
First, let's talk about the hit and run. I'm bothered by this because I read a lot of the information about it. You know, Bobby, in any crime scene, there are certain things you expect to be there. None of that seemed to be reported.
No skid marks, no telltale injury patterns that you normally see with both either a car hit or a drag. None of that was present. The injury pattern on that young man was not consistent with being hit by a car.
That's right. And it's interesting. I mean, it was closed out as a hit and run, but look, he still had his cell phone in his pocket. His shoes, which is very typical in a hit and run, shoes and things in pockets get thrown out. His shoes, which were laced very loosely, were still on his feet. And his body was almost placed. I mean, like you said, a body will tumble, it will roll, it will leave, a blood path. He had nothing like that. And in the investigation, which was being investigated at first as something other than a hit and run, the Murdaugh name came up over 24 times. And yet, it ended up being closed out as a hit and run.
In fact, in that investigative file, according to a close family friend, it was closer to 40.